Titleist is the #1 ball in golf. Yes, being #1 is a number, and more players trust the Pro V1 or Pro V1X than all other golf balls combined. But being #1 is more than a number. It's a mindset. It's a relentless mission to design and manufacture the best performing golf balls in the game, so you can chase whatever your #1 is. Titleist, the #1 ball in golf.
I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to Playing from the Tips and the 62nd episode of Golf Australia Magazine's preview and tipping show covering all corners of the professional golfing world, hosted by myself, Jimmy Emanuel. This week it is an all United States focus with LIV, the Asian and DP World Tours all on a break, so we turn our attention to 2 PGA Tour events and 1 LPGA tournament. Our so-called experts have their eyes on those 3 fields, and the first of those is golf podcasting royalty, who we are hoping is about to start hitting his tipping straps as hard as he hits the spacebar on a keyboard. Who else but Rod Murray?
Thank you very much. It's doubtful. Not my forte, this golf tipping thing. I don't think so. In 2 years?
You had a win or two last year.
I had a win or two last year. They tend to be spectacular when they come along.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just not very often.
No. Next, as we head into the very heavy schedule of major championship golf, you can expect 2 things of Adrian Logue: wins and junkets.
Yeah.
Logue, welcome.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Is that true? Am I on the mark?
It's true.
Which is more satisfying?
The Open. It's not a junket. I'm working hard.
What do you mean it's not a junket?
I'm on a year of junkets, to be fair. I'm working away at a couple more, so it's nothing wrong with that. Like we do each week, we look back on the week that was and our highlights and lowlights, as well as our tipping results. That will unfortunately be a very quick segment again this week. Gents, any highlights from last week's golf? Any lowlights? Anything stood out?
The young chap, Chris Kim, I thought that was
pretty special.
Particularly coming on the back of Miles Russell, and another one coming up this week, which we'll talk about. But it used to be the preserve of girls to be able to play at this level at that age.
Yep.
Is that changing, or is it a blip, is it an outlier? I don't know, but it's incredibly impressive. To make the cut at 16 years old on a PGA Tour field is off the charts.
Did you see the reaction of his old man when he nearly made the hole in one?
I did not.
He nearly lost his marbles. It was unbelievable stuff. Yeah, it was seriously impressive.
It's interesting.
I think kids are working harder and probably being worked harder by coaches, etc., earlier with that focus in men's golf.
Access to information too, I think, just how to build a body for golf. Work on this, do this exercise for that 5 times a day.
Launch monitors and stuff like that. You can build a really effective golf swing from a younger age. So it probably is coming in earlier.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing, which is probably a little bit different from previous kids coming through, is that they can do it for 4 rounds as well.
Yeah, that's right. It's not just one round, they'd shoot 80.
Think about like Ryan Ruffles, who had some good results, but there was always a bad round thrown in there early on.
Yeah, I think they're fearless too.
Yeah, they haven't got the scar tissue yet and all that sort of stuff, which is true.
Yeah, but more fearless than other. I mean, a kid like when Tiger was a kid coming in was obviously fearless, but the next drop down wasn't. There was obviously other. Taylor Pendrith bodes well for the President's Cup if anyone still pays attention. That's,
They've got to make that mixed. They just have to make it. Well, you can't have to, I suppose. But my understanding is it's the LPGA that's not keen on the idea of a mixed President's Cup, which seems odd, but they've got the Solheim Cup. That's one of their biggest assets. You can understand why they might not want to dilute it with another. I don't think it would, but a mixed President's Cup would be extreme. Clates nailed it, didn't he? Who doesn't want to see Scotty Scheffler and Nelly Korda playing together in foursomes or fourballs?
Exactly. And then the other thing is the ominous form of Brooks Koepka, who just goes and finally wins as the PGA comes.
That's very interesting.
That's a guy who just has a switch.
Yeah. I looked at him at the Masters and I thought he actually just didn't look like he was very sharp at all. And I thought, maybe he's done. Because, there's... He's a guy, I think, who needs incentives, and getting the chip off his shoulder was an incentive for many years, and then now he's just got something to prove again. Like, He's got to invent something to prove.
Now, is this version still one that's capable of silently sliding up behind you at the blackjack table as you first tagged him all those years ago?
Scheffler's the cooler now.
Oh, is he?
Like as soon as Scheffler gets out and starts that thing that he does, where he's just not making any mistakes, and he gets through difficult passages with much more ease than anybody else.
It's been the hallmark, hasn't it? He's always come through some period on the Sunday where others have fallen away and he's gone ahead.
Yeah,
so that's just turned everything.
That's just that cooling effect on events where just as soon as you think, somebody's going to come up and rise up and challenge him, no, he just cools it off. And he's the cooler now.
There was also, in and amongst Liv, Ripper, Australia's team wins again, and then an announcement of a trade period.
Yeah.
Which I don't fully...
They're trying stuff.
They're trying stuff, which I think is good. There's been, I think, a realisation, particularly the last 2 weeks, that the team element has a huge upside that I think everyone's known, but they haven't nailed yet. An Australian team winning in Australia proves it, and then going and winning again, and then this idea of trades. But I just don't see how it will work with all these captains and all this sort of stuff, and where without independent ownership of teams that see value in trading players like you do in other professional sports.
Yeah. The team thing, Jimmy, I still think that the problem, everybody's intrigued by it, me included, have been right from the start. The problem is, I think, when it comes down to it, if the team event isn't match play, it just isn't interesting. That's the problem. It's got to be head-to-head match play. That's when the playoff in Adelaide, that was the show. Yeah. It's head-to-head in that turn. That's what makes the Ryder Cup work. It's what makes the Solheim Cup work.
It breaks it down enough that that's easy to understand.
Any fan of any sport can watch that, know nothing about golf, and easily keep up. They're one up. They're two up. They're back to one up.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
Agreed.
On last week, for the second straight week, it was just 2 top 10s added to our tallies, which now sit at 62 finishes inside the top 10 for 2024, alongside 9 wins. Numbers that, yet again, we remind you are unrivaled in the podcast tipping space for series produced by print publications and recorded in Sydney, Australia. I've added Australia because I'm not familiar if there's any podcast coming out of Cape Breton Island, Canada, Sydney.
So there's a Melbourne in Florida, I think, isn't there? There's
a Royal Melbourne in Chicago.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, Royal Melbourne Country Club.
How much accidental business are they doing?
Our friend Matt Burns has a hat from there that's one of the great hats of all time. On to the golf ahead, and it is signature, elevated, designated, whatever name you prefer, event time on the PGA Tour. Logue, you're going to take us through the Wells Fargo Championship.
Yes, indeed, a signature event. So most of the top players are present. A couple missing, more on that in a moment. But Quail Hollow, a favourite of mine, or as I now like to think of it as McIlroy's Alley, 3-time winner at that golf course, returns this year full of confidence, so that'll be interesting to see if he can make it 4 wins at Quail Hollow. Also, Wyndham Clark, of course, is defending champion and looking to become the first ever player to defend his title. I am also defending champion because I picked Wyndham Clark last year.
That was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But so somewhat of a title defence for me this year.
Is this
from
your
a
first?
tipping perspective?
Is this your first title defence?
No, of course not. No.
Sorry.
Please. 14 wins last season.
That's right. He'll make
Totally
but,
made a number of it anyway.
I feel like Wyndham and I are in it together this year. So,
I'm sure he does too.
You got a cute nickname like Clogue?
I picked...
Or Lark.
That's some of your best work. So anyway, but on to Quail Hollow, which continues to cover up its history of mistreating quail. It sat once on the largest dairy farm in North Carolina, but was named for the abundance of quail that could be found on the property, which were unfortunately mercilessly hunted by the membership to the point where quail sightings these days are less frequent than a Rod Murray tipping win.
Oh,
nice.
Sharp. That one was written down too. that was predetermined.
You wrote that last night or just this morning? When did that go in?
I deep research on your tipping performance as well.
And quail.
Rory's had 3 wins. There's another 3-peat. Lesser known 3-peat at Quail Hollow has been Fazio'd 3 times.
Oh.
Tom Fazio.
Not often an architect gets 3 goes.
He's had 3 cracks at it. 97, 2003, 2016. And they still just can't get that Augusta-esque sort of status that they so crave, but they just do everything wrong. They do everything wrong.
Wow.
They get the sand from Augusta, and somehow they just can't all bring it all together to make it, but to give it that je ne sais quoi that Augusta has. They do have, however, the Green Mile, 16, 17, 18, which are at least pretty memorable looking holes.
Yes.
Been lots of drama on that 18th over the years, hasn't there?
Yeah. And
David Toms made an 8 there and still won. I think he had a 5-shot lead or something standing on the 18th down. He made a 7 or an 8.
I think it was still called the Wachovia Championship.
Yes, it might have been. That's right. Yeah.
Jason Day blew a PGA there.
Had a 7
Jimmy
or Walker won it. Yeah.
No, Jimmy Walker won at Bolter's Roll.
Sorry. Yeah. But Jimmy Walker was in the one at
Quail Hollow.
I'm sure he played, yes.
Enough. Move on.
Yeah, Justin Thomas won that one. The PGA returns to Quail Hollow in 2025, by the way. And my favourite piece of Quail Hollow trivia, it's got 15 fireplaces in the clubhouse.
Well, if that's not a recommendation.
I think that tells you everything.
I think they're playing there in the height of summer, so they probably won't need to fire them up. But anyway.
Who knows? Scheffler is skipping this event, notably because the first baby is still on the way.
Yes.
I'm a bit worried. I'm monitoring that situation.
I was thinking about that actually today. I think he's the kind of guy that it's happened and no one's going to know.
Right, he wants a week off.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think?
I think he would have had the baby and wouldn't have publicly posted anything anywhere or anything like that. It's just like this is our little.
Doesn't want to pay the $4 million fine.
I don't know that it's about not paying a fine, but it might be about.
If it goes
having
on,
some privacy.
He wouldn't get fined under the circumstances. There's got
to be some. Too much longer, we're going to have a medical intervention, I think.
Okay.
Ludwig Aubert has withdrawn as a precautionary measure to rest his knee. Just a bit tender.
Young age to start getting that kind of injury, and maybe he's got something pre-existing. Knees are pretty important in golf, particularly the modern game. That you really put him under pressure.
Right.
So
he uses his knee. You need it. Aussies in the field: Cam Davis. Only 3 Aussies: Cam Davis, Jason Day, who's a former winner here,
he is,
and Adam Scott, who's in on a sponsors exemption. I don't know. He's getting
that
out of these sponsors
racket has to stop. It's got to stop.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. We've got, that's it for Aussies, actually. So anyway, my pick, I'm with him all the way this week. It's Wyndham Clark and I looking to repeat.
Clogue.
Yeah, it's Clogue.
Victory.
It's Clogue again.
We've been clobed.
He hasn't played since the Heritage, but he finished 3rd at the Heritage. He missed the cut at the Masters, which was a bit of a blow. But anyway, I think he's this is very much a horses for courses type of.
He's a hell of a
absolutely. It's as horses for courses you get. Rory, Jason, Wyndham Clark, I'd say would become one.
Justin Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Rod, a tip from you?
I'm on Rory. You can't go wrong, especially coming off not just a win. That was a pretty important win, I think, for him after a couple of difficult years for Rory, you know, with the whole live thing going on. It would have been just nice to win with Shane Lowry and then go and get drunk, which is exactly what they did. So he'll be in a good frame of mind.
Despite the fact that scares me that you've just tipped him and it might ruin my chances, I'm also going to tip Rory. Huge emotional boost, winning and spending time with Lowry, who he's known since he was a kid and all that sort of stuff. He plays so well around here. There's a lot of the external noise again with the PGA Tour policy board that he might be going back onto and everything like that.
The delay on that? What are they
I'm not
doing?
sure. Ewan Murray from The Guardian wrote an interesting thing about it last week. It's strange, but sometimes Rory plays well with the external noise. Sometimes he doesn't, so it'll be interesting. But on the back of that,
what do you say about Rory? He's like a superhero, but he's got no idea when the cape is going to come out.
No. It's like that specific guy, the greatest American hero, who had that super suit that the aliens gave him, but they didn't have the instruction manual. So he's got the super suit, but he doesn't know how to use it.
No idea how to use it.
And every now and then it all clicks, and he's like, "Oh, wow,
superhero!"
For the modern fan,
he doesn't know how to turn it on.
Miles Morales in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where he can't work out when to turn on his invisibility and not.
Exactly,
he's got to learn it. Yeah,
very good.
Very good.
Your golf ball is the most technologically advanced, or it's not. Your golf ball is either the most consistent, or it's not. It's the most trusted, or it's not. The fact is, it's either Titleist, the best performing golf ball in the world, or it's not. Prove it for yourself. Titleist, the #1 ball in golf. What will you play?
Next, the LPGA returns to action for one of its biggest events outside the majors, or at least what should be one of the biggest events outside the majors. The Cognizant Founders Cup, that of course honours the LPGA's 13 founders each year and boasts one of the best past champions lists in golf. More on that in a moment. First off, I know you're all waiting. What do Cognizant do? And after this description from the website, you're probably still going to wonder. Cognizant engineers modern businesses. As one of the largest global professional services companies, we help clients modernize technology, reimagine processes, and transform experiences so they can stay ahead in our fast-changing world.
Wow.
Together, we're improving everyday life.
Oh, they workshopped that in an offsite, for sure.
For sure.
First of all, they defined their big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yep.
And then they worked through some SWOT analysis.
Yep.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And then they brainstormed some phrases, and then they've come up with that.
Any blue sky thinking in all of that? That's a big thing, isn't it? Blue sky thinking, or is that gone out? Are they all singing from the same song sheet? Is that what we're seeing here? All this nonsense. What is? There's literally no meaning to any of those sentences you just read out.
There is. They're improving everyday life.
Yeah,
That means something to me.
How?
Imagine what life would be like without
Cognizant.
In my research, I did find out they were Singapore's best employer in 2023, though. So there you go. Straight facts. Can't deny that. Back to the golf. Winner list I mentioned before. Try this for a little sample size of an event that hasn't been around that long. Jin Young Ko 3 times, Min Ji Lee, Inbee Park, Kari Webb, Yanni Seng, and a Nordquist. Pretty good list.
Not bad.
Pretty good. This year they returned to Upper Montclair Country Club in New Jersey that was originally designed by A.W. Tillinghast before Robert Trent Jones redesigned it all in the 1950s. And by all, I mean there are 3 9-hole loops here. They play the South and the West for the LPGA. And it's actually been here since 2022 with Upper Montclair hosting in the past the PGA Tour, Champions Tour and other LPGA events. Really classic East Coast golf course. So you got pretty flat land, but really interesting bunkering and rough mowing lines.
Got a real look, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's got that real look. There's a bit of tree. It's very green. It is really just good golf.
Yeah.
Pretty
naturally green though. It's not that hyped up green you can sort of see in the desert. It's naturally
exactly. And unsurprisingly, the 2 times they've played this event previously, 2022, 2023, it's kind of a ball strikers show up and win, including Jin Young Ko last year. Main story this week, Nelly Korda, 6 wins in a row is what she is chasing. Can she do it?
She can. She's as good as anybody we've ever seen right at the moment. There's no reason why she can't. Will she? Different question. At some point you've got to run out of energy, don't you? It's got to be energy sapping, all that winning and the pressing. And she nearly froze to death after jumping in the lake at the one she won last time. So yeah, I don't know. It's got to come to an end soon, but you'd love to see it. Yeah. If she keeps going with it, it's just going to keep picking up more and more steam. Yeah. Start making news outside of just golf as well, you would hope. So it'd be great to see.
Mm-hmm. Outside of Nelly, you've got Jin Young Ko, Ty Tittingham, Leona Maguire, Lydia Ko, so on. Aussies, again, a huge contingent, which is just going to become a normal thing on the LPGA this year, which is fantastic. So we've got Minjee Lee, Hannah Green, Grace Kim, Seth Kiriakou, Sarah Kemp, Gabby Ruffles, Karis Davidson, Robin Choi, and Hira Naveed.
Yeah, well done.
So amazing. And again, all genuinely good players.
Don't need the surnames.
No, all first name players.
Okay. Okay.
We know who you're talking about.
I know you know. Yeah. But that's okay. Let's get some tips. Rod, why don't you lead us off?
Hey, Ran Root.
Nice.
4th last year, 3rd and 5th in the last 2 outings. Incredible, extraordinary play, a bit like Ronnie Yin.
Yep.
Completely under the radar until one day she'll win something big. She's had 1 win on the LPGA Tour. But, she's just playing nicely, solid player. And every time I see her on the leaderboard, I think, why don't I ever tip this girl? She's really good.
Yep.
So I am.
Okay. Loke?
That's kiss of death for her.
She's in the
promising career.
Promising career down the
toilet. Although look, you've talked me into Ataya Titikan for this event. I was down on her. Just in a little bit of pre-recording chat, you've said, "Oh yeah, she was injured."
So you now bear no responsibility for the result unless she wins. In which case, you're a genius. If she doesn't go good, it's my fault because I talked you into it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, she went all right at the Chevron as well.
Yeah.
Signs of life.
Pretty much not on form, but just on other factors. I'm going with Minjee.
Okay. Other factors? What do you mean?
Other factors being her and Hannah Green are now quite friendly, but have that ongoing competition that's been going since junior golf.
Yeah.
One wins, the other one tends to win pretty soon after. Yeah. They want to have that sort of level pegging or one go past the other. She's gone through a club change this year, so she's now with Callaway Golf.
Yeah.
It's taking some time to get used to, but it'll come. She's too good a player, and it's too good a stuff that's all fitted around and all that sort of stuff that basically means she will get there. She's won this event before. This is her sort of golf. Just it's really based around hitting your spots and then converting. Just needs the putter to sort of heat up. That's what does Minjee in a little bit, is if the putter's not going. So I think that turns around this week, and it sort of sends her into a major season where she'll be more of a factor. Finally, let's go to the Myrtle Beach Classic, an additional event, I think we call these.
I think it was additional, yeah.
Additional.
I went looking this morning, couldn't find it again.
Rod Murray, take the floor.
This is the one, I'm not a YouTube golf follower, but this is the one they had the qualifier a few weeks ago,
yes,
or back in March, for all the YouTube influencers, plus a couple of pros and whatnot. Yes, and did anybody see the finished product? It sounded like an interesting idea, but I'm just not in that.
I haven't actually seen it. I think George Bryan got the spot, didn't he?
No, he got a separate sponsor. A guy called Matt Atkins, who's a former Corn Ferry Tour player and winner. He got the spot. He won it in a playoff, I think. Yeah, anyway, so so
genuinely hoping you'd tell us how Blades Brown made it into the field.
You just need to wait your turn. He was a sponsor's invite as well, but yes, absolutely one of the great names. And of course, Myrtle Beach in America is considered kind of the tourist destination, like the Gold Coast on steroids for golf, and yet never been a PGA Tour event there until this week, which is interesting. So there's 90 courses in the area. Sponsor watch, by the way, the Myrtle Beach Classic. It's the Myrtle Beach tourist people.
Yep.
They built the thing around golf. 90 golf courses. I think it's about 100 and something mile radius. So lots and lots of golf. Hosted the 1962 US Women's Open, this course, and the PGA Tour Q School the year that Ben Crenshaw earned his card. Nice. Tell me that's not a fact that people should know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, June's Golf and Beach Club. It's got an alligator alley, so we might get ready for that. The bear trap, the snake pit. This one's got the alligator alley, which is holes 11 to 13. Now, here's what happened when I went looking for some course details. I have a shout out to Ken Sucks at Golf on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Have you come across Ken?
No.
This is extraordinary stuff. Ken took us on a tour of the course, including filming every single shot that he hit, and then provided the commentary over the footage, obviously while he was watching it back, giving us thoughts about his game, where he did.
I've watched a German guy who does that.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what they don't do. Ken gave himself a par on I can't remember what hole it was, might have been the 11th, because he backhanded a tap in and it missed. He said, that's not a count, I'll just count that as a par instead of a bogey. But on watching the replay live, he changed his score because on reflection, that was too long for a one-handed tap in. I have to add that shot. So he gave himself a bogey in the end. So if it hadn't been for that, he would have shot 79. Instead, he had 80.
Oh.
Go and check out Sucks. It's different. Maybe it was just early in the morning I was watching and it was odd, but this is not – I've seen some of those.
There's one I follow called Golf Sidekick or something who's actually almost a scratch player. Is quite interesting.
This guy is not almost a scratch player, and he'll tell you about it all the way through the video. He takes his own alignment.
It's right there in the name.
That's exactly right. He sucks at golf. So thank you, Ken. That was some good stuff. The course itself looks reasonably interesting. It's a bit like you were saying, the typical kind of northeast thing. This is a typical Carolina look. It's a Robert Trent Jones, I think, from memory. Where did I write that down? Up the top here? Yeah, Robert Trent Jones. So
which one?
I'm going to say senior because we're talking 1950s. Yeah, so it's what you'd expect. These players won't have any trouble with a fair bit of water down the sides of the holes and a fair bit that cuts across holes. Won't bother any of them. What I do like, Jimmy, and I know we talk about this occasionally, this seems to have really found its place in the local community. I must have found 6 different clips from the local TV news channel from the last 12 months talking about this.
Absolutely.
Including last week when the little jokesy bit between the weather and the going back to the desk was a little story about the trophy being unveiled.
Yep.
So
that's
you won't get that on the networks.
That's the experience we get with events in Australia when you take the smaller events to regional areas.
Great
all that
feel
sort
to
of stuff.
I really do applaud that. That's got
and
a great
local
feel.
News, and you've got to pay tribute to the people in those local news areas who still do it. And are so strong. There's one up in Newcastle area and all that sort of stuff. But it's their event and it means something to them. And absolutely. So these events are important, and I think that gets glossed over a little bit.
That's got nothing to do with the golf, obviously, but it was. I just thought that was interesting. That's a good vibe for a lot of PGA Tour events, changing sponsors and all the rest of it that's going on. That's a good vibe that they've sort of embraced it. Now, you've asked about Blades Brown, which will be intriguing to all of us. He's kind of this week's teenage sponsoring, right? So he's got big acts to follow in Chris Kim and Miles Russell. Miles Russell did he finish 20th, Miles Russell, on that Corn Free Tour event, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
And this Chris Kim made the cut last week. Clearly a good player. He's one of these local phenoms, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. The Blades is his mother's maiden name.
Oh.
She was a WNBA basketballer, I think. Yeah, and her maiden name was Blades.
Because she used to cut through the opposition.
Yeah, that's right, just Blades. Yeah. So it's a great name, isn't it?
I feel like it should be like some guy who's going to sneak up and like cut you in an alley or something. But I'm just looking at his Instagram. He's very fresh-faced.
He's not bad Blades Brown, son of Leroy. No, he's all right. Yeah. The Bryan brothers will attract a bit of attention. George, I think it was, as you mentioned earlier, Jimmy, he got a sponsor's invite. He didn't win through that qualifier in March. How's this? This is a Kevin Chappell sighting for you too, Lo, which is nice. Love it. Been a while since we've seen Kevin. Jimmy Walker won the 2016 PGA Championship. He's an alternate. Doesn't take long to fall in this game, really. That was 8 years ago.
Is that right?
Can't get a start in an opposite field event or an additional event, as they call it. So we often see these meteoric rises.
He's not even first alternate as we record. He's fourth.
No, he's not. Yeah, he's an alternate. He's not the first alternate. It's really quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Wow.
So it's a big opportunity this week. These opposite field events or additional events always, in some ways, more important to these players than the win for the players playing at Quail Hollow, because there's a lot more to play for beyond just that week. So
also, I noticed with how small the signature event fields are, this additional event field's pretty strong.
It is. Look. There's no such thing as a weak PGA Tour field. Is there? We talk about, it's not such a great field this week. The reality of it is it's an amazing field of players. We just don't know.
100%.
I mean, it's about as good as last week's field.
Yeah.
It's about as good as the CJ Cup field.
Yep, no huge names, but plenty of players that you look at and go, he can play. And like, that makes for interesting golf too. It's a bit more democratic. You haven't got anybody just obviously out there chewing it up. Australians, Aaron Baddeley and Harrison Endicott, that's it. Well, Ryan Fox, who we count. When he's playing well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who I'm going to tip, actually.
Okay.
Wow. It looks like you really genuinely felt like you just made that up on the spot.
I didn't. I've actually got it written down here, but I had forgotten.
That felt like a purposeful segue.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I liked it.
It's about time for Ryan to do something again. He's that kind of player.
Yeah.
He's got too much talent. Every now and then it'll burst through. We know he's erratic, and there's a bit of Phil Mickelson about him. He hits it into places that are unrecoverable, and he hasn't got Mickelson's short game. But when he doesn't do that, he's as good as anybody else in that tier of golf. So why not?
And he gets the nice guy tick.
He is genuinely and not just a nice guy, he's a genuinely good bloke. Got a great sense of humour, self-deprecating, really, really, really
just an absolute legend, Foxy. Logue, speaking of legends.
I'm going with a player who is a risk. He's a risk. I've picked him before, but you've got to get him on a week when he's going to have his good weeks.
Okay.
He has his good weeks and he has his bad weeks. I like him. New Jack Hostler.
What?
The new Jack Hostler.
Who's Jack Hostler?
Oh, Bo Hostler.
Sorry. Why did you call him Jack? I can't remember now.
Bo Hostler.
Yeah.
New Jack Hostler. Never mind. It's not for you. Bo Hostler.
I hope that Bo Hostler one day hears that you've just taken his name and changed it and gets quite upset.
I went with Hostler this time rather than Hustler.
I know. But that's, anyway. I am going to go for a man who, the first time I saw him, I just thought, I like everything about you, and has not ever quite gone on with it. But Kelly Craft.
Yeah.
Played college golf with a friend of mine at SMU.
Good alliteration too.
Yeah.
Outstanding hair flow, tremendous hair, big visor. He's just got it, and a genuine flusher. Yeah. But he actually, for people who actually care about trying to win an event, he shared 11th at Zurich in his team, and then he was tied for 13th last week. Okay. So he's actually playing into some form, and he's one of these guys that, when I first saw him, he came out and played in Australia a couple of times. Played an Aussie Open, I think, a New South Wales Open maybe, and looked like this is a guy who's going to have a 25-year career on the PGA Tour and pick off the odd win here and make a good amount of money and everything like that, and just hasn't quite converted it. He'd be in his 30s by now, and these are the sort of events where a guy like him can make a big change to their career. So
Patrick Rogers. The same sort of thing with Rogers, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Just think, this guy's got
good amateur,
everything.
good college player, everything like that, and just probably didn't kick on as quickly as you would have thought. That will do us for episode 62. Rod, I look forward to sharing our joint celebration of Rory winning next week and us rubbing it in Logue's face. Or Clogue. Yeah, we'll get Wyndham Clark on the line. We'll rub it in both their faces. Yeah?
Clogo.
Windrian.
Yeah. How will Clogue celebrate next week if you're successful?
Modestly, I'm sure.
Modestly?
That's how I win.
Well, the PGA coming up, you haven't got
time to celebrate.
No, it's true. Straight back to work.
Straight back to the grind.
Straight into the grind.
Yes, very good. Thank you both. That will do us for Playing from the Tips this week. You can follow all these events, opinions, and so much more at the Golf Australia magazine website, golfaustralia.com.au. Thank you for listening, and we will be back next week on Playing from the Tips.